Hi, welcome to SFG Cards and Craft. Today I'd like to show you how I did this card. This is number 3 for my 2017 Christmas card series. Just showing you here, this is the Mama Elephant Reindeer games. I just used the tree and the star off that one. And Lawn Fawn, it's a mini series, mini stamp set called Oh Snap. I used the dies on that, on both of these as well. The inks that I'm using is Worn Lipstick, Rusty Hinge and Vintage Photo, and Peeled Paint, Mowed Lawn and Wild Honey. It's a fairly quick, simple card, this one. There's no stamping as such other than these little characters. The sentiment that I put on, I actually just print that from my computer. I'll show you later on how it's sort of done. Okay, just laying out the colours. Now the colour that I'm using here is just the Rusty Hinge colour, and I do that all over. I even cover the buttons because they're going to be covered with liquid pearls later on anyway. When I'll just explain and then I'll put some music on. When I've done the blocked in the colour on the Rusty Hinge, I actually come in later on with the Vintage Photo and do some shading out on the outside, just to sort of give it a bit of sort of depth, I guess you could say. We all know that when we've actually made cookies with a cookie cutter, you always end up with a slightly darker edge on them. Now the tree star, that is done with the wild honey. The tree itself is done, basically it's done with the mowed lawn, as in blocked in with the mowed lawn, and then I just come in and just do where the branches would overlap and just sort of do a bit of shading there with the peeled paint. And those are then stuck onto some fun foam and left overnight. Probably didn't need to leave them overnight, but I left them for a fair while anyway. And look, I'll put some music on and we'll see how we go. Thanks. Okay, just back again briefly. This is just putting the liquid pearls on now. The intention was that putting these liquid pearls on and leaving them to set, then die cutting them, I had hoped that it would actually flatten the little buttons that I'm putting on the shirts of the gingerbread man, I had hoped that it would squash them down to make them look more like buttons, but unfortunately I ran into some problems where when I taped them in with the into the die, and then I took the tape off, even though I only used my washi tape, the buttons came off. So obviously the pressure from the die cutting machine was actually enough to actually crack it away from the cardstock, so I ended up having to put most of them back on afterwards again. So that was a failure. As I said, I was hoping to actually make them flat like a proper button, but it didn't work. I must say the other one, the black one that I used, which is Nouveau, it was fine. It never came off because I've actually, the green and red is actually liquid pearls, but the black for the eyes is the Nouveau drops, and there I'm putting it on there now. It was fine, so maybe it's because it takes much longer to dry. Perhaps it's a better bond to the paper, I don't know. But it certainly didn't come off like the other ones did. But anyway, look, I'll leave you with it again. I'll get back to the music. Okay, I'm back again. This was just showing what all I did to put the sentiment on. I just wrote it up on my computer and printed it out, and then when I found where I wanted to put it on my card, I just stuck the piece of paper using just some washi tape over the top of where the where the sentiment is on the piece of typing paper, and then I just ran it back through the printer again without changing anything on the computer, and it came out exactly where I wanted it, because you can sort of see through the cardstock if you hold it up to the light anyway, and you can see there it is there. That's just showing how I've done it. And then just take off the washi tape, and if you're careful you don't tear any of the paper, and then you can reuse that sheet a few times. And the sentiment that I put on is just one that I made up myself, and I've put it on as it's beginning to smell a lot like Christmas, because I mean I'm putting the pine needles on now, and then you've got your cookies, so cookies and pine needles, you know, Christmas. That's what it boils down to. Okay, well I'll leave you with this part of it and put some more music on for you. the way, the stamp set that I'm actually using here, the branch that I've got there, the pine needles, it's from a Mama Elephant stamp set called Twinkle Towns. Okay, and the Lawn Fawn ink that I'm using is, I think it's Noble Fur. I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm using on that one. It's probably the darkest green I've got of Lawn Fawn. I don't have all that many inks, but I'm slowly gathering most of the Lawn Fawn inks. It's just what was available here at the time, so I had to get that. I've got a few other inks, but other than the distress inks, I don't have very many of anything except the Lawn Fawn. And just doing the last little corner here. I didn't want to bore you with all the setting up and all that, and because it can be quite time consuming. This part of it probably took longer than the rest of the card, actually, deciding where to do this. The whole card took about 50 minutes to make. It's a fairly simple card, as you can see, except for the drying time. And there's the card, the base card, before I've stuck on the little characters, Christmas trees and gingerbread men. And I've decided to add an extra gingerbread man. I had actually already painted it, but I hadn't shown sticking it onto the fun foam, so I was going to put just a row of 3 gingerbread men and the tree sitting above, but they didn't fit quite right with the sentiment there on the top. So I've decided to do them like this, so there's 4 across the bottom, then staggering with the trees in between them, so they fit a bit better. Otherwise they would have to have sat too close together and would have just looked sort of kind of silly. Nearly finished now. Maybe I'll just leave you with a few seconds more music. Okay, all I've done there, I've just put on the blocks just to hold it and left it sitting for a while. I probably don't know, I mean, I may have left it for an afternoon or something to dry properly. One of the trees seemed to have moved there a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, these things, you're sort of assuming they're real cookies, they would be just thrown on a cooling tray anyway. And there's the final card. It's beginning to smell a lot like Christmas. It really is too, with all the Christmas decorations are out in the shops and all the different musics in the shoppers playing. Some of them now playing Christmas carols, which it's just so commercialised in Australia. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and click that like button. Thank you. Bye bye.